Greetings, everybody, and welcome to my YouTube channel, All That Is. I'm so glad to have you here. We are on episode number 11 of Galactically Speaking with Katrice and Raquel. So thank you for being here. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. To all our new subscribers or new folks that come in to check out our podcast, welcome. And I hope you continue to come back for the following episodes. So today we are going to be talking about sovereignty and what that means. Well, first of all,
Mm.
welcome, Katrice. Welcome to the
Hi.
channel. Um,
Hello, everybody. Anyway,
well, we've been having a chat before this, so it's not really like I'm just
uh,
saying hi to Katrice. But yeah, it's such a beautiful day here in
oh,
British Columbia. And so we were just talking about potentially shooting the next episode out in the open and just maybe doing something different. So yeah, we'll think about that and plan for it.
mhm.
So anyway, today's episode, we just wanted to bring about the subject of sovereignty and what that means in terms of divine sovereignty, in terms of body,
Absolute
speech, and
sovereignty.
mind complex sovereignty, spiritual sovereignty, all those different iterations of what sovereignty means. But before we get there, I just wanted to sort of just remind ourselves of the last episode and what that was about. We had channeled Yeshua ben Joseph, also known as Jesus, and Mary Magdalene. And so I just wanted to know if, Catrice, if you had any questions or any sort of feedback from that show. I know you had some questions, and then um, I was channeling, of course, and so we had questions around. Um, I forget now. What were the
I'm
questions about?
sorry. I would like to say I remember absolutely everything, but I don't, right? There's been a lot of stuff going on this couple of
Yeah,
weeks.
I
We've
know.
had a
We
few,
we've been away for almost 2 weeks now, right? And so much stuff
seems
has
like,
happened. Yeah.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
like, what? That's only 2 weeks?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, for me too. It's like, oh my gosh, so many things have happened. It's like, and I'll talk about it not just, on the YouTube front and just events happening, but I've made this new alignment with the two Shekinahs, and so
Yeah.
there's a whole lot of things happening in that arena as well. So,
Well, it's like
yeah, we can.
everything is picking up the pace,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Where the more we put ourselves out there, the more we're going to be bringing in kindred spirits.
Yeah.
But another thing, though, and it's interesting, we talk about everything just goes so fast.
Hmm.
And then we think, well, time, it's continuous. And I remember reading a book a long time ago. I don't know if anybody even, I don't even remember who wrote it, but it was called Time is an Illusion.
Hmm.
And it was just thinking about it. Once we stay and just, we're in this present moment, that's the only time
Yeah.
in that moment we
Yeah.
need to think about. But when everything starts speeding, it's like, whoa, wait a minute. I just got all ready to be hanging in with this energy, and now it's going to morph into another one. It's exciting times.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. And like you said, the momentum is picking up and it's
Mhm.
happening on so many levels, and a lot of things are coming to light. The truth is just, pouring out of everybody's mouths, really. And, realizations are happening, things are just moving along, right? And so,
Yeah.
yeah, it's been an interesting couple of weeks. And yeah, for me, it's just been, a lot of alignment as well has happened in terms of just going back to my karma and aligning those energies. And I was wiped out for a couple of days
That's what you
doing
said.
that. So I was energetically like really low. But then just 2 days ago, I had this really um, momentous, I should say, event that took place. I had gone into meditation. This was yesterday. Yeah, this was yesterday. See, I'm losing track of time.
Mm.
Um, so, yeah, I went into this meditation, my usual morning meditation, but it was a very powerful meditation. And what happened was I was in this state of mind, if you will, where I felt this pressure in my head, and it felt like something was being released. And as I, went deeper into that meditation and contemplation, I came to understand that it was a J seal. So it's like a Draco seal, an energetic seal that was removed from my third eye and connected to my pineal gland. And so these J seals
I'm
were put
sorry.
into us. Sorry,
Thank you.
go
Okay.
ahead.
I've never, a G seal, you
J,
said?
J, J.
J. Okay.
J
Go ahead.
seal. Yeah, it's like an energetic seal that was
Mhm.
installed by the Draco into the
Ah,
into the body, into the physical sort of energetic body. But it was installed in such a way that it was installed to have that continuum, if you will, through the generations. So this was installed, what, so many thousands of years ago, and it's still continuing with the generations. So, my parents, their parents, forefathers,
got it.
it continues with that energetic signature, right?
And so
And
what
so
you're talking
this,
in your in this okay. All right, this lifetime and in
mhm,
that your genealogy through that lifetime, right?
yeah, yeah,
But not something you came in with as a soul. So it happened
it's
once you were
both.
in the
It's
physical.
it's both. It's both. They're both connected because your karmic um, past lives, if you will, are connected to your genetic um, genealogy as well, right?
Yeah,
It's
right. Okay, now I'm just remembering. Yeah, okay. Hmm. Okay, sorry. I
That's
hadn't.
fine. No, that's fine. So yeah, so as I went through this meditation, I identified that this is what was happening, and it felt like later on, upon completion of this whole thing, I sat and I contemplated the entire episode and what happened, and it felt like this. Um, it felt like a, a a thorn crown, if you will. So if you equate that to like the crucifixion, wounding, that sort
Mhm,
of thing. So
mhm.
that was like removed from my crown chakra, and it felt like very crusty and very old. It felt like almost like magnetic in a way, but it was really really old. And so, of course, I had help like Yeshua and his grandmother Anna, who was when during his incarnation as Jesus, they both came in and they helped with the removal of that energy. And so as I sat through that healing, I didn't feel any pain at that time, just this heaviness being lifted away from me. But after it was completed, throughout the day yesterday, I had this like very dull, heavy headache, like, so I knew that that was like removing itself completely from my energy. And healing was taking place, alignments were taking place, and I had a nap in the afternoon, and I just couldn't function until I had that nap. Like, I just felt really, really
Oh,
heavy.
totally.
Yeah,
You need that total stillness
yeah,
to allow the integration
yeah,
to fully anchor in.
yeah, yeah.
And when you were talking about that, the crown of thorns, and then you said it felt metallic or something, right? Because I remember when I used to have that sort of pressure, right?
Mm-hmm.
It felt like it was about, boom, all the way around.
Yeah.
And it was definitely like a crown,
Mm-hmm.
but it was sort of almost bolted in.
Yeah.
And as I started working with opening up to more, now remember, of course, I'm older than the average duck, so this was quite a while ago,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
But I remember that it was like when I became aware of it and just allowed myself to sit with that because I kept getting the pressure, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And as soon as I realized what it was, and it's sort of the same thing, it's having everything held back so that you're not fully able to
Yeah,
expand
yeah.
in your own consciousness,
Well,
right?
that was the intention, right? They were
Totally.
blocking you from that divine
Yeah,
energy, right?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
if you when you think about it, it's your crown chakra that connects you to your higher self energies,
yeah.
right?
It
And so
wasn't my
they put in
crown.
these inserts. Well, third eye
Yeah, but
crown,
I'm just saying, yeah, because the
yeah,
third eye is how you
how you receive it, right?
interpret it and how you,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what happened to me as well. So it was the third
Mm,
eye connected to the pineal gland and then the crown
mm,
chakra, right? So they're all sort of
totally.
connected. But yeah, that's what happened. And yeah, it was really interesting. So I wrote about it on my blog, which perhaps as we go through the show, I'll bring that up and show it to the audience as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just put it down in words just to sort of get a full understanding of what was happening, right? And for me, that's my way of expressing as well, writing it
Writing it
down
down.
and
Yeah.
just sort of journaling about it. So yeah.
Mhm.
So that was an interesting episode. Talk about sovereignty, right?
Hey, can I jump in here? I just thought of something with the writing.
Yeah,
Long
absolutely.
ago and far away, I used to write all the time. And I had this back then, I mean, this is how long ago. We didn't call it a blog, or did we call it a blog? I don't remember. But
Podcast? No.
no, it wasn't. No, it was all writing. But the moniker was Messages from Beyond and Within,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And so I would just be sharing what information I was getting for the day. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
But I didn't even, I said, oh, geez, I must have some copies of it somewhere, but it was nowhere to be found in my laptop. And I went, huh, oh, well, I guess I didn't need it. So as I said, I have a brand new laptop, and there was some little thing I had to click on something with the cloud. I'm not very tech savvy. And all of a sudden, poof, poof, poof. The next time I opened up, I went,
Oh, you found it.
there's
Wow.
messages from beyond and within.
So it was
Oh,
meant to be. Yeah.
there's my January 1 set of intentions and understand it. So yeah. So it was like, okay, time to start writing again, right?
Isn't it
Anyway, sorry, I
interesting
just
when
had
you
to.
read about your past self, though, when you reflect and have you gone through some of your writings? To me,
Yeah,
that's
but
really
it's
fascinating.
just it's totally always I knew it was a higher energy. Remember,
Mm,
we've talked about that, but I didn't have any name to put to it, right?
yeah.
I never really asked. I just knew that when I stepped into this is the time where I'm going to sit and I'm going to share whatever happens to come through me, right? And
Hmm.
so it was. Yeah, it's exactly I tune right into that same energy again. And interestingly enough, my daughter-in-law has started working with the same frickin' energies.
Oh,
And I
nice.
haven't mentioned to her, but when she met me, she used to go, Mamacita, I want to be just like you when I get older.
Oh,
Ah, and here she is doing exactly the same stuff. I think it's funny.
so she
Anyway.
channels?
Well, no, it's not like she channels. She's just sharing. She's sharing. Okay, we have the philosophy, right? And then we have
Hmm.
sexuality. Well, she goes, "What's the philosophy on sex?" And she shifted it all around, and it's called uh, the fix. PHX, right? And it's all
Oh,
about
okay.
looking at what people's ideas are. What is sexual? What is beautiful? What is sensuality? How do we identify to it? Especially as women in menopause,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Because she's 50-ish, yeah, and trying to maneuver all that. But it was so interesting that after all these years, she's sort of bringing through that higher thought through her little life, right? It was, I don't know, I think it's really good. Yay, Al.
Nice.
Anyway, yeah. So
Awesome.
writing. But I just thought that was interesting. Huh, huh. So it really is still up there in the cloud. Everything's up in the cloud.
Yeah. Well, good for you.
I know.
Yeah, maybe you can write, put it all into like a book and,
I have
publish it.
323 pages, single spaced, of a book that
Right.
I stopped writing years ago because I thought, this is becoming my life story. I don't know how it's going to end. So I just got tired and I left it.
Well, maybe you can add to that, like then and now, perhaps you can expand on what you were thinking then and,
It's 20
compare it to
years
what
ago.
your thoughts are now.
20 years ago.
That's a long
Maybe
time
not
ago.
quite
So
20.
yeah, a lot has happened since then, right?
That's
Yeah.
right.
Well, you have a new love in your life for one.
Oh, totally. Who's going to
Yeah.
be off on his adventure most of the summer? So I got lots of time to write and
Yeah, there you
muse
go.
and yeah, too funny.
So, Catrice,
Sorry, I
what do
cut
you
off.
think about sovereignty? Let's pick your brain first about what let's talk about divine sovereignty first and what that means
Okay.
to you.
Define sovereignty to me. Okay. We are all sovereign beings, whether we understand it or not, right? And to me, being in your sovereignty means fully aligning with who you are on all levels, right? And we're talking about divine sovereignty. It's acknowledging the inherent gift or greatness we have in incarnating, right? And allowing us to step into the world around us, not just as a mere mortal human, but
Mhm.
as that divine being fully connected with who I am,
Mhm.
fully connected with that source energy and fully connected to the earth, right? And so for me, that's what it is. And like a sovereign nation, you can think about that, but it's like for me, we carry our sense of sovereignty with us, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
I was talking to someone today and she said something to me about, I don't think I've ever seen you not in the same warm, joyful energy. And I said, well, I tell you, man, if I'm coming into work and help people and enlighten them, if I'm in a pissy human energy, I ain't coming in. She
Yeah.
guy goes, so it shows that that doesn't happen that often, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But being in connection with our own sovereign being, it really behooves us to pay attention to how we are feeling in this here and now, right?
Mhm.
Because face it, we have days where we're right out there and we've tuned into so much of a high vibration, and that's where we resonate. But
Mhm.
still, we have to come back into this little human-eyed person to say, hey, thank you. That was a really good day. I'm now
Mhm.
going to recalibrate and go to sleep,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
trusting to wake up in that same place, feeling safe and comfortable to be you. That's what it all is to me, right?
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
And so when yeah, how do you share it?
Well, for me, I think it's been a journey to get to that understanding and put a label to it, right?
Mm,
Because you know yourself as a human being, and you know that you are innately a good person, right? And you
yes.
can sort of go through your life in the belief that you are doing good and you're doing things from that purity within your heart, right?
Mm,
But for me, that took on many sort of layers once I came to this embodiment, shall we say, of my higher self energies.
yeah.
It's like you said, you're connecting with that divine spark in your heart, that divine creator energy.
Yes.
And when
Oops.
that
Uh-oh.
happens, it's like your pureness, if you will, or what you thought was the goodness in your heart, takes on this um, expanded form in every way, right? It's like it
Hmm.
goes to another level, right? And then you're given these realizations, these truths, and this, you're looking at everything through a very different lens, right? This
Yes.
expanded lens, if you will. And so then you're connecting your past to, this sort of small me, if you will, to this I am presence that is in capital I am, right?
Yeah.
That's your sovereign being, your sovereign presence right now. And so
Mm.
you're looking at yourself from a very different lens, right? In that presence of the divine, of the almighty, of your I am presence, right? And so it really is quite startling when you come into that realization, right? And you
Because
understand that, wow, I'm just this little dot in the universe, of things, right? And so it's like you have this stunning realization that there's something
you're so
so
much
much
more.
more bigger than you are, right? And that's what
We
my
may be
quest was
one.
always about.
I was
Go
going to
ahead.
say, we always talk about just being, this little tiny speck in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
But I truly believe that, as above, so below. And
Yeah,
we have the universe right in here. But we
absolutely.
have to let go
Yeah,
of all those lower based perceptions about what
yeah.
we're capable of and who we
Well,
truly are. You
yeah.
have to look at those pieces of you. Like when you said we all believe that we're good people, a lot of people are really struggling with that. and
Yeah.
really having a low sense of who they are, right? And
Hmm.
that makes the journey even more difficult because not only are they fighting everything outside, they're fighting those old beliefs that they held to be true about
Yeah.
themselves. And
Yeah.
that's when this
Well,
work
and
that
that in itself is a practice, if you will, in sovereignty, right?
totally.
Because it's how you perceive yourself and how others
Mhm.
perceive you, and whether you take offense in that or not. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
that dark night of the soul. It's that coming to realization within yourself and
Hmm.
what you truly are, and differentiating from that true that true part of you versus your egoic self, right?
Yes.
And so you have to align all of those energies in order to come to
Totally.
that true essence of yourself, right? And so there's this always this adjusting taking place, right? And there's always this new
Always.
realization happening, right? And it comes on many layers, right? It's coming from dealing with relationships, it comes from dealing with your perhaps your professional life,
Your family, your
how you see
siblings, your
yourself exactly.
parents, your kids, it goes on and
Yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah. So there's many different layers to it. And so, um, and again, it also comes back to how you perceive your environment and how you treat your body, right? Because
Hmm.
your body is your is
Temple.
your is your is the sacred temple, if you will, right? That
That's what I
houses
call
your
it.
soul,
Our
right?
body
Yeah.
temple.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
Yeah.
This is the temple where we house our soul,
Yeah.
and we need to really have reverence for it,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
And so that's really, I think that's really important because you're feeling it in every possible way within your body, whether it's an emotion, whether it's a disease, or whether it's um, yeah. And what comes to mind is this whole, I'm going to say pandemic, because I don't want to get kicked off this channel, but when we think about these limiting beliefs that were imposed upon us during that whole episode of
Yeah.
the government imposing its its thought process, if you will, upon the collective or upon the
Hmm.
people, right? So it
Hmm.
was their limiting belief system, or the ruling class's belief system, that they could control us in the way that they did. And when you think about the mindset that was happening within the collective at that time, everybody was in fear. Everybody was in that fight or flight mode of, am I going to be sick? Am I going to get kicked out of work? Am I going to have, a proper home to live in? It was like all these
Yeah,
emotions
there
were
was so
coming
much
up.
inconsistencies going on out there and so many deep hmm, conversations we all had to have
Yeah. So it's
on
like
our
they took that power within themselves to take it, in a way they attempted to take it away from the people, right?
Mm.
So it did affect a lot of people. Unfortunately, it didn't affect me that much. I should
No,
say
me
that,
neither.
because I
Uh-uh.
was like, you know what? I see through this bullshit. I'm not
The
participating
whole
in
thing
your
is
experiment.
that, well, and what happened was that's like 5 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there are so many people that will never be the same again,
Mm-hmm.
right? There were so many families that were, we're talking the collective, right? So many families were just ripped apart. It was
Yeah.
like, oh my God. It was the real beginning that we've seen this century of that mindset about you're right, you're wrong, right?
Yeah.
Constantly without any sort of median space. It was
Yeah.
that was my challenge, I think, trying to
Yeah.
understand, because I've always been one of those people. I understand why somebody's doing something. Doesn't mean I would do that same thing. But
Mm-hmm.
you get an idea as to why that's happening,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And wanting that pleasant, uplifting shift to occur and
Mm-hmm.
watching it go down even further, right?
Yeah.
It was like,
But
oh,
it was a total questioning, if you will, of our sovereignty, right? And those that stood
totally.
firmly in it are still being punished for it in a very big way. When you think of the trucker convoy in
Yeah.
Canada, right? And
Hmm.
there's this guy called Tommy Robinson in the UK, who's just been
Mhm.
released from prison today. You know,
Yes.
he's been fighting against the establishment there in the UK. And so it's these people are targeted because they have stood in their sovereignty for the truth that they believed in, for the cause that they believed in, and they are punished for it, right? And so that to me is the inversion, if you will, of this reality that we live in, that is always challenging and trying to put us down as sovereign beings and trying to challenge the creator, and how the creator shows up within us as that pure being. And so we are constantly being challenged
Totally.
for our sovereignty in this way by the inverted beings that are on this plane of existence, if you will, right? Does that make sense?
Totally. I'm yes, it totally makes sense. I was going to say something, but no, it's consequential.
So I have a little passage to read to you, and this again speaks to sovereignty. So I know I've talked about this book before, but it does mean a lot to me, the Sophia Code. And so I'm going to read a little bit from the preface of this book. So it's about the author. She calls herself Kyra Ra. And so she says, having survived the first 18 years of my life, I was recovering from being systematically raped and brutally tortured on a daily basis by both the caretakers and countless others. From my birth, I was groomed to be inducted at the age of 3 into a child rape slave trade for the elite ruling class, whose network crossed 6 state lines, including all of New England, New York, and
The
Washington,
states.
D.C.
Okay.
The
Got it. Yeah,
states,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
This slave trade exchanged child trafficking for political power, real estate, and millions of dollars, as well as supplying child slaves for the highest tiers of Masonic ceremonies of satanic ritual rape and torture in the
Oh my
United
God.
States. Yeah. This elite network included politicians, military officials, wealthy businessmen, as well as an entire system of medical professionals who believed that raping children provided them with the vital life force for achieving immortality, remaining in power, and ensuring the future of their generational rule. At the hands of at their hands, I survived multiple surgeries, comas, and at least 13 death experiences in which I was carried into the light realms far beyond this world. My first experience of dying due to this insane brutality occurred at the age of 4 in New Hampshire.
Wow.
In this journey, I also witnessed the rape and murdering of innumerable other children as well. My psychic centers and intelligence were plundered for this elite military and Masonic slave trade, and and this extremity of torture left me without any boundaries to the spiritual world. I was, by the grace of Sophia, the archangels, and the ascended masters, that I survived every attempt on my life. However, by the time I escaped, I walked as the living dead for several years. It was also by the grace of Sophia that my own attempts to end my life in those early years following my escape were unsuccessful. It would take all of my 20s and most of my 30s to recover from these atrocities and become the integrated whole human being I am today. By 2001, I managed to graduate with honors and a bachelor's degree while working full time, creating a foundation for my future. Through a divinely orchestrated series of synchronicities, I discovered that I could train my oracular gifts to be helpful to others and myself. I
What
was also
gifts? Sorry.
oracular.
Oh, okay.
I was also in awe that although my heart was broken, my channel was pure, helping others with the information and healing that I could download from source, regardless of my condition, built a confidence in myself that had been almost annihilated. Professionally, I went on to serve, activate, and mentor an international clientele and countless communities. What else? Yeah, I
She
think
now?
just one more
Oh,
paragraph. I wrestled
sorry.
almost most of my life with this decision to go public about my personal journey of recovery, including writing about this in the preface. I decided to share my story because I want the whole world to know that we can heal from anything with the power of our higher selves flowing through us. I
Mhm.
call God Sophia, but whatever you call God has the power to heal your life and everything that you've survived.
Totally.
So I thought that was an incredible little, part of her
Hmm.
story. So yeah, it's just, overcoming whatever you're being put through in terms of just yeah, she was pummeled from all sides by this establishment, right? And so coming through that and making your story the highlight of your life, like eh, alchemizing that into a success story
Yes.
is what truly makes that a sovereign being within your own
Oh,
reality. And she wrote a book about it, and to me this is such a beautifully encoded book. It's like you've got
right.
all the divine feminine aspects of the divine mother coming in and speaking through her. Like what a blessing that is, right? And it's so
Totally.
powerfully done because I've actually gone through those initiations in the book, and it has made a remarkable shift in my life. So, if somebody is that blessed and that pure to bring in those powerful messages to me, that is sovereignty
Yeah,
in
totally.
spite of
But
all the.
we really can heal anything if we believe that to be true.
Hmm.
And conversely, if you think it's a bunch of hoo-ha, then that's your reality, right?
Yeah.
But it's not but. It's just it's interesting when like people that have major back issues, right? And they're in super pain and everything, and then they remember, oh, wait a minute, you couldn't walk. What did you do? And they knew what I did, but they conveniently forgot it, right? I didn't have surgery. Nobody was going to cut into me. I was going to tune in to who I am. And that was the hugest part of my journey, right? Being able to look at something that was like terrifying and then going, earn it, only if you
Yeah.
believe it to be true, right? And it's just down the road, though. It doesn't matter how strong. I shouldn't say doesn't matter, but it won't matter you sharing your story if someone doesn't believe it. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
You know
Hmm.
what it is.
Hmm.
And there's tons in the realm that are going to just, take it in as another truth, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of the challenges with
Yeah.
doing any of these work, being able to
Well, it
step
has to come
away.
from your voice as well, right? And your authenticity in how you present it, right? And it has to ring true for it to be received from, from the other person, if you will, right?
Totally.
And so,
Totally. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And like she says, you need to have that self-confidence in bringing forth your own story and in bringing forth your own
Hmm.
experiences to share with the world and being vulnerable about it, right? And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's really fascinating. And so, yeah, that brings to mind the sexual perversion that exists within this reality as another way of, taking away that sovereignty,
Control.
if you will,
Yeah.
right? And so you've got all of this mind control happening, taking away the control of another person's body in terms of, rape and, trafficking and all of those things that are taking place, right?
And that's been going on from the beginning of time. It's become much more prevalent, right? It's I don't know if I meant my daughter-in-law. She lives in another part of the country, and supposedly it's really bad there, the child
Mm-hmm.
trafficking, not just the kids, but the sexual stuff. And I'm going, really there? I just didn't realize. And then you
Mm-hmm.
start going, no, it's everywhere, right? It
Yeah.
just isn't standing right in front of our face for us to look at it, right?
But what do you think, Catrice, will be the turning point, if you will, for people to actually acknowledge that this is taking place in society and then going down that rabbit hole and saying, enough is enough, let's stop this? So, what do you think will happen if everybody just said, stop? And what do you think, um, will be that turning point, if you will? Because it's becoming more and more prevalent that this is
Um,
happening in
well,
in
unfortunately, the more power those out there that are in control of this, right? The more power they have, the more money they have. It gets to the point where, well, politicians, okay? I don't even want to say he who shall remain unnamed, but some of the things that happen, and it's like they are above the law. And a lot of those people, there's where the problem lies. If these were just little Joe and Blow on the street, yeah, they would get all rounded up. But when it gets to being people that are in power, it becomes, I mean, look at all of the demonstrations and stuff that have been going on sporadically down in the States. And there's more and more and more of them in every single state, yet nothing's changing.
So there's
It's
that
like you're almost
separation
talking,
consciousness, right? Yeah,
yeah,
it's like rules
it's
for
like you're
thee, but
talking
not
into
for
the
me.
void.
Yeah.
It's, and it's so for me, I've never been one of those ones, I'm going to go on the picket line and row. I've just never, that hasn't been my way of working with it. My way has always been tap into our own divine sovereignty, realize that in this moment, you can't hands on make a difference, but energetically, you can just keep sending that energy out with an intention or a vision that all of this will eventually morph into something good and true and real and of love instead of
Mm,
hate. Do you know what I'm saying?
yeah. Well,
Oh,
but
yeah.
sometimes, you have to speak about these truths, and that's why, I get pushed into these um, realms, if you will, for bringing, putting light on certain issues and speaking about it on my show, right? And so
Hmm.
um, I feel that the more light you put on these
Yes.
dark events, if you will, or realities, the more people become aware that it is happening. And I think that's
Hmm.
happening to a large extent because that's how people are becoming aware of these sex trafficking rings and child trafficking rings and all of the underbelly, if you will, of society that's coming to
Yes.
light now, right?
Completely.
So there was another interesting thing that happened last week, I believe. There's this guy on,
Sorry.
he's a character on YouTube.
Hmm.
His name is Aubrey Marcus, and he's talked about radical. Did you hear about it?
Just Aubrey. What was my buddy Aubrey? What was his last name?
So he was talking
Aubrey.
about radical monogamy.
Radical
Monogamy.
monobic
M-
monobic
monogamy.
monogamy. Radical
Yeah, they're
monogamy?
calling it
Okay.
radical monogamy. So he's got a partner, but they have now invited a younger woman into their relationship. And so he's gone on his podcast to talk about it. And
Then
his
it's not
wife,
monogamous.
what's that?
That becomes polyamory if you've got two.
Well, yeah, but he's reinventing it, if you will, and giving it a name, calling it radical monogamy.
Okay.
Okay, so they are reinventing the wheel, if you will, right? But yeah, I saw the podcast, and to me, it was a very sad situation because and I did really like this guy in the past. Like, he's been a very spiritual person. He's brought out a lot of good things. He's talked
Hmm.
a lot about the ascension process and very, very good, like, really good stuff.
Hmm.
Very intelligent, very spiritual. He's like, had many really good guests on his show and then and I really liked what he was doing. And he's talked about this earlier as well, having multiple partners and things like that. And I'm like, you know what, to each their own, right?
Yeah, if that's what you like,
Yeah,
then that's fine,
yeah.
right?
But when they interviewed this, and he had the two women, and he brought in this, I guess I forget what his title was, but he was a pastor of sorts or a doctor and or like a counselor, if you will. And so there were four of them, and they were talking about the development of this relationship and how it happened and how they foresee things, going forward. And so as the conversation developed, it felt to me like he was in a way, a mastermind behind this whole thing. Like he was
He wanted the two women.
directing it, if you will,
Yeah.
right? Like it was like, okay, I've got a wife, I'm happy in this relationship, but I need another. And now it's like I need to convince my wife to accept this other person into our
Oh,
relationship.
wasn't. Oh,
So
okay. Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean that's just my thoughts and how I see it. Like and she wept. She wept on the show, and she talked about how she struggled with this, this accepting, if you will, of this other person, accepting her relationship with him, accepting how she would relate to this other person, and so and this new dynamic,
And
right?
they all
And
lived together.
yeah,
Oh,
so and to me, this new person is a very she's a young person compared
yeah.
to these two. They're much. They're to me, it looks they're much older. And so I don't know, it just seems like a trap for me for this new person coming in. Like she's so young, she seems quite naive to me, even though she was talking really well. She seemed to be in control of her emotions and the way she looked at the situation, but energetically to me it felt like it was a trap, not only from her side but from the wife, his first wife's side. And it felt like there was something that was just not gelling there.
It sounds controlling,
It
right?
felt
This is
very
what he
controlling.
wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was trying to justify the whole situation by presenting it to them in a way that they would perhaps receive it in a way that he saw it, right? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, they went off on holiday to Egypt, and there's it gets the plot thickens. They
Okay.
went off on a holiday to Egypt, and he was in this temple of Isis, and apparently he got a download from Isis saying that he needed to impregnate both women. Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. It just seems very strange to me. To me, it's like this whole inversion again, if you will, involved with sex, involved with children. And it's like you're bringing a child into a relationship that perhaps the child doesn't necessarily want to be in that relationship, right? You've got to think of this from the child's perspective as well. And hearing from friends that are teachers that are already exposed to these kids that are living in that situation of having parents that are in these sort of, mixed relationships, they say that children are in so much trauma, in so much pain. And so to me, it's like you're just bringing in more and more trauma within this already existing world full of trauma. It's like, why? Why? So
Well,
anyway, I just thought
as
I would bring
one,
that in because that was
no,
like on my mind.
see, the whole thing is too, in my past, managed to bring in a lot of really interesting partners, but without a lie, almost every one of them, they all wanted multiple sexual partners. And for me, I enjoy that aspect of me, but it's not something I'm going to be sharing sharing the partner thing with. And it would just, I remember being madly in love with this man probably, well, God, 25 years ago. And it was just so amazing. It was everything I wanted until he said to me, "So would you be okay sharing me? I could be with you on the week here, and then I'd be over on wherever she was." And I physically threw up. And I realized that's not in my
Yeah.
wheelhouse. That I can't, just the idea of him doing with this other woman,
Hmm.
potentially the same things he's doing with me,
Yeah.
that's just me, right? And I think,
Well,
but
it hits you in
people,
the sacral chakra, doesn't it? It's like, oh my gosh, yeah, yeah. And that goes back to what we've
my
talked about in
heart
the past
too, it
as
was
well,
my
right?
heart. It
Yeah.
hit my heart because I had so much love for this person
Hmm.
and realizing, well, like when I said there, okay, monogamy, that is that dedication to one person. He might call it radical monogamy, but no, it's not.
No.
He's trying to have a polyamorous relationship and
Yeah.
trying to make it sound that it's going to be great. Like,
Well,
what about
he's
sister
glamorizing it, right?
wives?
Yeah, he's glamorizing it. Exactly. Yeah.
Because of that sister wives thing. That would be just, it's a complete, it's almost, I want to almost say culty, right? The
Yeah.
guy gets to have his cake and eat lots of other cake. Do you know what
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
saying? It's
Yeah.
like, whoa.
Yeah.
And like,
No, I totally get it. And yeah, so this has been like the hot topic of many discussions online. Like, it was talked about in many forums that I went on. And so, yeah, I thought I'd bring it forward here. But
yeah.
yeah, there's so many aspects to this, and it's really, really sad. To me, it's like that inversion, right, of the divine feminine and divine masculine that's playing
Mhm.
out again, right? It's that
Yeah.
imbalance within the divine feminine and divine masculine. It's like you don't need, if you are truly in balance within yourself and within that divine feminine and divine masculine energy, you will not need another partner to to
It's like
to
finding that,
satisfy any needs within you. Yeah.
it's like it's such a completely different, for me at least. I've just never been in a relationship where I know beyond a shadow of a doubt I'm his, he's mine. Not as I control you, but
Yeah.
he's not going to be sharing himself with other women. I'm certainly not going to, or men, or whatever. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's
Yeah.
just, it makes that divine aspect come into that sexual component. If you have the masculine and the feminine fully in alignment with not only themselves but with each other. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I
absolutely. There's a
just
give and a take, right? And there's that balance, right? It's like you're sharing
totally,
on an equal level and you're balancing each other out. Like we talked about
yes.
this, if you are lacking in the feminine energies at one point, then, he comes in
Hmm.
and balances you out. Or if he's
Yeah.
imbalanced, then you balance him out and whatever that is, right? And it's that give and take. And you understand each other completely in
Oh,
knowing, intuitively where you need to step in and what's needed in the relationship, right? And so, yeah, it's really, really sad when these things come into this reality and
I
people are
know.
trying to, make it cool and make it acceptable in the, in the fabric of society, if you will. When you think about it, right? Like he's a really popular person on the internet, right? And so somebody with that kind of audience is coming out and speaking about these things. Of course, it's going to be received and,
And
taken
different
on.
women are going, ooh, maybe I can get in on some of
Yeah.
that action.
And a lot of women would consider him as a good-looking person, and so
Yeah.
they look up to him as an idol, right? And so, it's like people like this, that have that sort of platform, they are making an impression on society, right? And they need to be sovereign about their message, right? Yeah. It's a
Yeah,
tough one for me,
interesting.
and I've really struggled with that. It's yeah. I hope you know um he finds it is in his heart and her heart and their collective heart, I suppose, both the women as well, to come out on top of this and realize for themselves what is truly meant to be happening in their lives, right? So yeah, it's really.
I know a couple, and she had always been bisexual, absolutely stunning woman. She was really beautiful. He was just absolutely gorgeous, and he was definitely a divine masculine. Well, when they got together, one of the things that she put in her wheel that she, done her ceremony to bring in this compliment was that he would be perfectly okay with that sort of stuff as well, right? And it was great for the longest time until what was happening was the women that it was always women they brought in. It was never other men, it was always women. But what was happening was none of the women wanted anything to do with the husband. Everybody just wanted him or her. And it was like, I don't need to be here just watching This is just, it's, poof, if you want to do this, you can go somewhere else, but I don't need to be watching it. And it
Hmm.
slowly but surely dissipated. And
Mm.
now they're, very, very solid again, right?
Mm. Mm.
But they discussed it at the very beginning to bring something like that in after you've been in a long-term relationship, right?
Yeah.
I would
Well,
just think,
and
oh,
like you said, it does something to your heart. For me, it was trust. It was trust that was broken, right? And it really shatters you from the inside out, right? And it's like, wow, yeah.
totally,
Mhm.
totally. Huh. Interesting.
All right, let's shift gears now to go
Okay.
into a more divine realm. But we're sticking with the same topic and in terms of sovereignty, right? And so
Right.
I was touching on this subject, and I think I mentioned it in the previous show where I was reading the book Anna, the grandmother of
Yeah.
Jesus. And so she talks about the crucifixion and resurrection enactment in society by Yeshua. And so in my communication and in my meditations with Yeshua and with perhaps Anna came in as well to answer my question, I asked why was it necessary to have this crucifixion and resurrection enacted, if you will, within the reality at that time. And so the answer I got was first of all, it was a pre incarnational plan that they made. And
Okay.
it wasn't just Yeshua, there was a collective that surrounded him that came into this plan, if you will, and how they were going to implement the plan on the earth plane. And so, how it materialized was that he was going to be birthed into this community known as the Essenes. Have you heard of them?
Yes.
Yeah. So
I've
the
read lots of
Essenes
books on the
were,
Essenes.
yeah, were this like collective of very,
Yeah. High
holy,
vibrational beings,
pure, yeah,
totally.
pure beings. And so they lived in the temples. They lived a very austere life, and they were sprinkled all over the place. They lived in Egypt. They lived in France. They lived in the UK, and so they had all these communities and temples, and but they were very quiet in their movement, right? They tried to stay under the radar because if you think about it, it's similar to our reality right now, but in a more like how do I say it? In a more savage sort of way, right? Because they were ruled by the Romans,
Mhm.
and we are, in a way, still being ruled by the Romans, but in a different suit, right?
Speaking of, okay, the Essenes, I remember there is a community up in, I don't know, Grand Forks, Nelson up there. There was an Essene community up there. And there was also another one that was down in, around Mount Shasta.
Mm.
Right? And so they're still active, but much, because I was looking at going to an Essene compound and spending some time there, right?
Mm.
But it
Interesting.
just never quite came together.
Well,
That
stay
was,
tuned, Katrice. Stay tuned. They are all gathering, and I'm
yeah,
part of this story somehow. I don't
yeah,
know where I fit in, but I'll tell you about it. Anyway, so
yeah,
going back to the story, so
that's
this
right.
was a pre-incarnational plan, right? And
Hmm.
so Yeshua was to be born or birthed into this um, bosom, if you will, of this Essene community. And so the way I guess the incarnation of a being happened at that time, and because of the invasion of the Draco, because they were very much part of that stronghold, if you will, when Yeshua made his birthing plan, right? And so they got permission from these invaders for a light being to be born, and they sort of gave the reason that this being was going to be born to show the collective the true love of the creator, and this being was going to be coming to prove to the people that the creator's love still existed, right, in very simple terms. And so they of course laughed at this collective of light beings that brought this plan forward. So anyway, all things done, he came into this reality. He was birthed a divine or light birth, right? He came in as a virgin birth, and that again is part of this Essene community. They knew the secrets of light birthing or virgin birthing, and so Anna, her her daughter, Mother Mary, was a virgin birth. Yeshua was a virgin birth. Mary Magdalene was a virgin birth. John the Baptist was a virgin birth. So there was all of these people that were around him, and there's many more in the book that they talk about. So it's like all of
Which
these
book?
beings were pure. Anna, the grandmother of
Oh,
Jesus,
right. Okay, go ahead. You said which
right?
book? Okay, got it. Yeah, yeah.
So all of these beings were like pure births, right? And they all came in like, without any interaction, if you will, sexually, right? So they were all
Yeah.
purely birthed. And
Hmm.
so I lost my train of thought now.
Sorry. Virgin
Yeah, so
birth.
I was trying, I think I was trying to get to the part of, yeah, the crucifixion and the resurrection,
Right.
the reason why that was happening, right? So, yeah, so after Yeshua came in and he realized what his mission was, and through the family that surrounded him, they all sort of trained him, and he went through all of these initiations through his mother, through his grandmother, through the Essenes. He went off to train in Egypt. He went off to India to train with the yogis, and he went through all of these initiations in order to study, if you will, how it was that he could resurrect his physical body and bring forth that light body, right? That rainbow body,
Mm,
if you will. And
totally.
so he totally knew what his path was, and he was bringing forth this potential of that resurrection and crucifixion within that reality, because he wanted to prove to this collective and to this Draco Lords, if you will, right, or the control system, that he was who he claimed to be, right, and he was coming here as an inception of the true creator, right? And so this is the reason that they gave me, and it was like there was like, first of all, they wanted to prove to the collective that miracles could take place, and they also wanted to prove to the ruling class that this was indeed the Son of God, and that he could in fact resurrect and move past that crucifixion and ascend his body into the light.
Right.
And so
Um,
that was the answer I got for that question, and I thought that was really fascinating. But
there's it.
the other story to this is that, they were already like we are in this day and age, right? We are like the grid workers and the the earth guardians and the stewards of the land, if you will. And at that time, though, that's what they were. They were connecting
Totally.
to the light, they were correcting the grids, they were fixing all of these frequency fences, and they were laying the seeds for the ascension to take place. And what I heard from Yeshua was that there was a very slight chance that an ascension could take place 2000 years ago, but because of the stronghold, they were not quite successful in having a full bodied ascension, like a collective ascension, right? It was just a few of these people that, that happened to have that ascension reality, if you will. So Yeshua and his family and these Essenes, they all had that ascension into the light, but it wasn't like a collective ascension like they had envisioned it to be. And so they planted the seeds for the golden age, which is happening now, for us to have this ascension that is taking place now. And so that's why, and this brings me back to our grid work missions, where we are constantly touching into that Yeshua, Mary Magdalene timeline. We are touching into the Essenes. We are touching into that 0 point energy field. And it's like, we're going into that, we're going back into that timeline and fixing all of that, what they couldn't fix. And so to me, it's very, very interesting with all these layers that are showing up.
When you were talking, I'm so happy lately. I've been really working on trying to I'm a classic one, blah blah blah, squirrel, and I forget what I was talking about. But I'm really, it's like I guess I'm really conscious now of, okay, keep that thought, keep that thought. So this thought that I've kept is it's called The Nine Faces of Christ, and it's all about all the different initiations he went through. I wish
Mm.
I could remember who channeled that one, but it was an amazing book. I still remember what the cover looks like. I'm sure I lent it to somebody 20 odd years ago, but it's called The
Oh,
Nine Faces of Christ, and the scenes are everywhere.
yeah.
The other one, when we're talking about, us all moving into the light and being, as connected to the earth, good old Barbara Marciniak. Do you know who
Mm.
she is?
I have read her book, yes.
Okay, so The Bringers of the Dawn,
Yeah.
that one. That book just fully resonated with me.
Hmm.
I'd already been playing in this realm, and then I went, well, that makes
Yeah.
sense,
Yeah. That was
right?
a book for me as well, very early on in, excuse me, in my path as well. Yeah.
Totally. It just boom. I remember the first time I picked it up and I think I read the first paragraph and that was it. It was like, "Oh, hello.
Yeah.
Talking to me?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful when that, that resonates with you and it's like so much truth, so much truth, so
It
much
that's
truth,
it.
right?
And it
Yeah.
is all about resonating. It's all
Yeah.
about linking up on the same vibration,
Hmm.
right? Like when you're
This book
talking
happened
about,
to me, this grandmother of Jesus, Anna, the grandmother of
yeah,
Jesus. It's like every page is like a jewel, it's like, oh my God, I just want to hold her, it's like so beautiful. It's like it just comes to you, it speaks to you.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's nice. I love reading. I always have. And it's when you can find a book that really grabs your attention, right?
Hmm.
And just sort
Yeah.
of and opens you up into all these other
Yeah.
pathways.
Yeah. It's so beautiful.
It is totally, totally.
All right, Catrice, let's switch gears a bit. I
Okay.
want to bring forward,
What you wrote the other day.
I want to bring forward what I wrote the other day
Yes.
and also talk about all the great things that are happening in terms of events.
Yeah, you got a ton of stuff coming up, dude. Lots of them. Oops,
Can
here
you
we
see
go.
my screen?
Become a blog member. Okay, yes. The Beauty Way of Sophia.
Yeah,
Okay.
so this is the latest offering that I have for a
Mhm.
meditation event or a series that's coming up from Sunday for the next 7 days. And this
Right.
is in tune with the divine feminine energies, the divine Sophia energies. And so I've slotted each of these divine masters on each day. So we've got Isis of Egypt, Mary Magdalene, Hathor of Egypt, Anna, the grandmother of Yeshua or Jesus, White Buffalo Calf Woman, Green Tara, and Kuan Yin. So that's
The
happening at 6 a.m. to
AM.
7 a.m. PST.
And what is the reason for such an early start, or is that when you normally do your meditations?
Well, I started 5, so I thought, okay, let's do it at 6. Maybe there'll be more participation at 6. But what are your thoughts on the timing? I wasn't sure of this, but I just thought let's just put it out there and see what happens.
Well, to me, it just seemed really early. I'm
Early,
thinking if
hey?
it was, yeah. But I mean,
Okay.
if everybody in your collective, the main people, are up at that time, that works for them, and whoever's meant to will join in, right? But
Hmm.
I'm very rarely up at 6 a.m. That's all I'm saying. That's just
Okay.
me.
What would be a good time that you meditate, though?
Well, like if I was going to do something on a daily basis, I don't, but it would probably be at 9 a.m., which makes much more sense. But that's just me. Don't go by
Yeah.
me, right?
Yeah.
There's lots of
Well,
people
I would
that,
love for you to attend as well. So
yeah,
I'm trying to gauge what people's interests are, and yeah, to the audience, I would love to hear from you in
yeah,
terms
what
of
time
what
works?
time would be a good time to start this, because I haven't done something like this before. I mean, it's been like, one-off sessions here and there, and that's
Yeah,
sort of
yeah.
based on people's interest in their time.
And it
So,
also depends if people are or working like a
working.
day-to-day job, right?
Yeah, yeah. And
Uh,
that's what I thought, okay, this could be something that you could perhaps do before you went off to work, right? Because when I was working, I would probably leave the house at, I don't know, 8 o'clock or whatever to start at 9 or 9:30, right? So it still gives you that hour to get ready for your day job, right?
yeah,
So anyway, this is my offering for the week. Let's see
yeah,
how it goes. I can
yeah, yeah.
always, reschedule it if nobody shows up. But I thought it was important to bring these beings through and to shine a light on what they had to offer because I have at some point or the other worked with these beings and, they're all interested in bringing forth their essence and their energies as
Sure.
it relates to the Divine Mother energies, right? Which is to me is really lacking in our reality at this point in time, with the masculine energies sort of being the overarching, dominating energy right now. So
Totally.
this would be a truly much needed energy, I thought. And so this is my offering for the moment. And then we've
Mm,
got the events that are upcoming, which is the new moon in
right.
Cancer, which is a grid work mission, and it's
Yeah.
also a Cancer
Whole moon.
ceremony. So we are going to be talking about a few different things on that event. And so
Mhm.
if you click on this, it'll take you to the actual event.
Right.
And so this one again is bringing in that divine feminine energy, and we're talking about the Cathars and Christ consciousness and all that good stuff, and transmuting all of that
Mhm.
divine, well, not divine, but all of the imposing energies, and bringing forth the true Christ consciousness and Sophia collective energies. And so we'll have our grid work mission focused around all of those. And going back here, we've got the next one coming up July 10th, which is the Buck Moon.
Mhm.
And this is directed towards the masculine energies. And so, well, there, women, men and women are welcome to both ceremonies, and we've had
Right.
men coming into both the the two ceremonies that we just did, and it's been fantastic to have that balance of
Yeah.
both men and women
Yeah.
attending. So yeah, it's
Hmm.
been great. And so for this one, we are particularly going to be targeting the inversion of the divine masculine energies and bringing in that Christos and King Arthur energies that were coming in quite strongly, and dealing with the inversion and the false kings of tyranny in terms of the Vatican
Yeah.
and the British monarchy. And so we'll be doing another gridwork session as well through
Totally.
this ceremony. And then the Shamankas have landed. So last Thursday, we had this great chat on YouTube where we introduced the Shekinahs, Shekinah Grace and Shekinah Ma, and myself, who have come together in our Trinity. So this is the logo that we've come up with in terms of our alignment. And
Everlasting life, infinity, and oh wow, okay. That's a nice
it's the
logo.
it's the Merkaba, it's got the Ankh and the infinity, yeah. And we've also got a Facebook page, which I can add in the description below. We are meeting again tomorrow. So this is going to be a weekly show in terms of just speaking about current events, speaking about what's coming up and what's close to our hearts. And so I think this is a great conversation to be a part of. So I'd really appreciate it if you guys can check it out
You've
and
got
comment.
May 22nd.
Yeah, that was the last one.
Oh, because this is introducing the Trinity. Oh, okay. This is a
This is
different
just the last one.
Shamankas.
Yeah. No,
Ah,
it's the
okay.
same one. It's the same group, but this was last week.
Oh, got it.
But
Okay,
we've got
sorry.
another one coming up tomorrow. So if you
Yeah,
go on my YouTube channel, you'll see a link for tomorrow's show on there.
right.
And this was the update that I was telling you about,
Right.
Katrice. The encounter that I had with the Draco and that elimination of that Draco seal. So yeah, I'd appreciate it if you guys could go and check it out. I've just written about it and what my experience was in terms of bringing that forward and healing from that energy. And then if anybody's interested in taking my course, I'd love to hear from you. I also did a really cool interview with Shakina, who's also a student of mine, and a lady called Marissa. And we did a show recently where the two of them, and this is a link if you go to
Right?
my website, there's a link to that interview. And they talked about their experience through the entire course. So it's an 11 module course. You can do it weekly, you can do it daily. It's totally up to you. It's self-paced. But I thought this was a really great interview with these two people. They gave me great feedback and their experience going through the course and reading the books and just having that interaction and embodying their higher self and their connection to all that is and to the creator energies as a result of taking the course. It's just like enhanced their outlook on life, their connection to the higher energies, if you will. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'd really
Good
love it
girl.
if you guys can check out my website, go check out the blog, go check out the videos, check out all the events that are coming up. We'd love to have you participate in all of that. And don't forget to tune in tomorrow. There's the Shamankas coming in at 5:55 p.m. Pacific time.
Perfect.
So,
Yay.
anything else you want to close with?
Not that I can think of. I'm sitting here listening to my tummy going rumble, 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 rumble.
All right. Well, thank you,
Too
Katrice. That's
funny.
been a great
Okay.
chat with you as usual. Namaste,
Totally.
everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will see
Right.
you when we see you.
Totally.
Namaste.